No, love, yeah, no, no, love, yeah, no, no, love, yeah, yeah, no, love,
Let it go, make my body go. Make our bodies high. Let it go, make my body